What's up and welcome back to another video, guys. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the LEGO Star Wars Rebels sets. Now, I have a kind of odd relationship with Star Wars Rebels. When it was airing originally on TV, I really was not a fan of it. I didn't like it. I never really gave it a proper shot. And then later on in my life, I did decide to give it a shot when it came to Disney Plus, and I watched it all in its entirety, and I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it, but unfortunately, by that time, all of the sets had long retired, and I was not able to get my hands on any of them while they were still out on shelves, and then they were going for ridiculous prices on the aftermarket. But today, I wanted to go through and rank all of the Star Wars Rebels sets, because I think they're all pretty cool and really good. I am going to be excluding a few of these special sets, like the Comic-Con exclusive sets. I think they're both really sick, but I don't really think they have a place here on this list. The two little Toys R Us builds, I also don't think those really, I don't really have a way to rank those because they're just little tiny builds. I'm also not going to be ranking any of the polybags or the foil packs, or that super weird like surprise pack that has the bracelet, the sticker sheet, and the little mini Phantom. And also I won't be ranking the Ghost and Phantom 2-in-1, just because it's two sets that I'm going to be ranking on this list anyway, so there's not really a point in me ranking the two of them together. But without further ado, let's get right on into this ranking. Coming in at number 16 in last place is the ATDP Microfighter. Now, I actually don't have anything like wrong with this set. I just think something had to come in last, and this was the one that I picked. I think the build just, it doesn't really do it for me. It's kind of boring. I think the walker in the Microfighter kind of scale is just not the greatest. It doesn't really fit. I think the ATDP driver is a very cool minifigure though, and it's a pretty cool one. The build isn't great, but I don't really have much to say. A set had to come last, and I just think all of the other sets are just better than this set. It's just not necessarily bad, it just had to come in last place. Next is the TIE Advanced Prototype Microfighter. Once again, I don't really have too much wrong with this set. It's just a microfighter, and I think all of the other sets are just objectively better. I don't think it necessarily does anything wrong. It's a microfighter. Some people love them, some people hate them. I think this one, you know, it's kind of a middle of the pack, take it or leave it when it in regard to the other microfighters. It's not great, it's not bad. I think the minifigure is pretty good, you know, not really too much that you can ask for with a TIE pilot, but overall I think it's a pretty solid microfighter, and I think it definitely does belong in this number 15 spot. Next in number 14 is one that I really wanted to put higher, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, and it's Kanan's speeder bike. Now, I really do enjoy this set. It's one that I wanted when it was on shelves, one of the few ones that I thought was really cool. I think the little Imperial crates are just super sick. I don't know what is so alluring about them to me. I just think they're really cool. I thought that back when it was on shelves, and I still think that now. I know the speeder bike is very big and out of proportion, but it doesn't really bother me too much. It looks like a motorcycle. It looks pretty cool with like those high-rise kind of handlebars, which does look pretty cool in my opinion. Maybe, you know, the minifigure kind of idea could have been, I don't know, you only get the Kanan and the Stormtroopers, which, you know, you could have gotten a few more minifigures in there. But overall, I think it's a pretty good set. Unfortunately, there's just better sets, so it had to fall in the number 14 spot. In the number 13 spot, we have the other speeder bike set, being Ezra's speeder bike. I thought this one just had the slight edge over Kanan's, given that you actually do have both speeders for each faction, so you can, you know, fight them against each other. You have Ezra's speeder bike as well as the Stormtrooper speeder bike, which are both pretty good. You know, they're just your basic speeder bike builds. I think they look pretty nice, but I think the minifigures in this set are a bit better, given that you get Sabine and Ezra as well as your Stormtrooper. Overall, I think the minifigures are pretty good, and I think the speeder builds are also pretty good. I think overall it's a very solid set, and it was a very good deal for the price that it ended up being, which I think was $20, which is very good because I feel like a set like this today would be around $35. So overall, I think this set is a pretty solid set. In the number 12 spot, I have the Wookiee gunship. Now, I know a lot of people either love this set or hate this set, and I am kind of indifferent, but I do have a few issues with it. I do think that it was a very creative set for them to make, and I am happy that they did give it a shot, but I think the execution was just not that great. I think my biggest issue is, you know, the interior space, and also the fact it's a Wookiee gunship, and you can't fit a Wookiee in the gunship standing up and coming out. I think that's just my biggest kind of issue. I don't have too many, like, other issues issues than that. I think it's a cool set. I'm happy that they, did something kind of like that out of the box and not one of like the basic boring sets that you could have gotten in its place. But I do think it would have been nice if it was executed just a little bit better. I think the minifigures, once again, are pretty good. I mean, what do you expect? It's just the Wookiees and Kanan. I think it would have been nice to get a Stormtrooper or some sort of opposing faction in there as well. But, it is what it is. That's why it's sitting in the number 12 spot. I think it definitely could have been better, but it's not too bad of a set. Next up in number 11, which may surprise some people, is the Ghost Microfighter. Now, I think this is hands down the best Microfighter. Okay, maybe the second best Microfighter that LEGO has ever made. I think just the look of it is really clean. I think the minifigure, the Hera minifigure, is super sick. I think it's one of my favorite Microfighters, which is why I'm putting it in the number 11 spot. That may upset a few people that I'm putting the Microfighter above some of these other sets, but let me know down below in the comments. At the end of the day, it's my list, so I put what I want on the list. So yeah, it may be a bit biased, but I think it is the best, if not, one of the best Microfighters, which is why it is so high on this list. Next up, we have the Phantom. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this set. I think it's okay. I think the main thing pulling it this high in this list is the Ezra minifigure with the helmet. It's the only set that appeared in, and I think it's a really cool one to get. I think if it didn't have this minifigure, it would definitely fall very far on the list, given I don't think it's too aesthetically pleasing. I think it's just kind of boring. I think the big missile on the top is also pretty ugly. I don't think there's much going for the build itself. It's a very small build, but I do think it gets carried by the Ezra as well as the Chopper minifigure. Next up in the number 9 spot is something that may be kind of surprising to some of you guys watching. I have the Ghost. Now, I know before everyone starts typing in the comments, how can you put the Ghost at number 9? It's like the main ship for Star Wars Rebels. And now I was originally going to be higher on this list, but I watched reviews on all of the different sets when I was making this list, and I found out the Ghost really isn't as great as I thought it was. It was one of the sets that I always really wanted to get after I watched Star Wars Rebels, but it was so expensive and I never ended up getting it. Then the Ghost and Phantom 2 got revealed and, came out, and I got that, and I realized how much better it was than the Ghost. Now, right now, I think the only redeeming factor of the Ghost, the old Ghost for me, is the Zeb minifigure. I think it's super cool. I think he's a great character. All the other stuff is kind of, either came out in another set or just the build itself for the Ghost is kind of mediocre looking back at it. There's a lot of inaccuracies and there's a lot of gaps. It just doesn't look that good as I remember it looking. That is why it is this low on the list. Now, the Ghost is an iconic ship, and it still is a pretty good set in my opinion. The minifigures are pretty great. The build is mediocre, but it still gets the job done. I think the main deciding factor in this placement is the fact that the interior is so bare and lacking. You have a tiny little spot outside of the cockpit and gunning areas to have minifigures, and when I think of the Ghost, I think of the huge, massive interior with all of the cool things that they could have put in it, but the Ghost was just kind of plain and boring, as well as the fact that the Ghost kinda is not complete without the Phantom. You have that big open spot in the back, and it doesn't come with the Phantom like the Ghost in Phantom 2 did. Now, I honestly would have been completely fine with the Ghost, costing a little bit extra, getting that Phantom thrown in, and then also getting, maybe an additional minifigure or two, and then I think the Ghost would have been a lot higher on this list. But looking back, I think the Ghost doesn't really do it for me, and I think there's too many shortcomings to put it any higher than 9 on this list. Next, in the number 8 spot, I think we have a bit of an overhated set, the Imperial Assault Carrier. Now, I think this set is really cool. A lot of people don't like it because the mini TIE fighters and, other stuff regarding the rest of the build, but I think the build is really cool. This is one of the few ones that I really wanted when it was still on shelves. I really wanted to get it. I was going to get it, and then I think I got one of the other sets instead, which I kind of do regret now, given that the Sabine with helmet minifigure is about like $150 figure. But I think it's a really cool set. I think the idea to have, the tiny TIE fighters is super cool, doubling as a little landing, landing pad type things as well, so you can put the ship down evenly. I don't know, something about it is just really cool. It's really, really creative, and I'd love to see more stuff like that in the future from LEGO. I think the build itself is also a pretty nice ship. I think the minifigures are pretty sick as well. You can't go wrong. You get the Agent Callus in there. Like I said, you get the Sabine Wren with helmet as well, which is a super nice one. Only ever appeared in that set. And the helmet piece just alone for Sabine is super sick, and I wish that we did see it in more sets. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as expensive as it is today. But overall, I think it's a really solid set, a very overhated set, and I think think it is definitely one of the highlights for the Star Wars Rebel kind of line of sets, in my opinion. Next is one of the very few Star Wars Rebel sets that I owned in the number 7 spot, being the ATDP. I got this set for, I think it was Christmas, I believe, a while ago now. Wow, that was like I don't know when all these came out. It's probably anywhere between 2014 and 2016. But overall, a pretty nice set. I think the build on it was pretty good. You know, it's pretty basic. It's kind of like an ATST, except it has super long legs, and it has those really nice printed pieces on the side, like those little spheres on each side, which look really nice in my opinion. The minifigures are really great. The Agent Callus, a really cool character in my opinion, and also a very nice minifigure. Overall, a pretty solid set, and it was definitely a highlight for the line as well, in my opinion. Next, in the number 6 spot, I have the TIE Advanced Prototype. I know a lot of people think this is one of, if not the best set, but it doesn't do it in my opinion. I think it's pretty nice. I think it's a really nice set, and I think the design of the TIE Advanced in its own is really nice, and it's really cool and executed very well in this set. I think the minifigures as well are super sick. That Inquisitor minifigure is really, really nice. I think it doesn't really go wrong anywhere. It's just not really my cup of tea. Overall, I think it's a really solid set, and it definitely could have ended up shooting a little higher on this list. It's just the other sets kind of edge it out, in my opinion, in one way or another, but I do think that it is a great set. Cracking into the top 5, the first in the top 5, in the number 5 spot, is the Rebel Combat Frigate. Now, this is one that I recently purchased, and I think it's one that's kind of overhated. Now, a lot of people love this set for the minifigures, but I think the build isn't that great, and I do think that the build is actually really nice on this one. There's a lot of cool play features, especially with the back kind of turbine thruster area, which is really cool, and there's a lot of other highlights, like the printed windscreen, windshield kind of piece on the cockpit, which is exclusive to that set and is a really nice piece in my opinion. And I think the overall shape and build and play features in this set are really nice, let alone there's a fairly spacious interior where you can fit all of your minifigures, which is really nice. I think the build is overhated, but the main drive to this set and the main drive to this set on the aftermarket are the minifigures. Now, I got this set, I think when I bought it was like $500 sealed in box, but I remember passing it up for like 70, 80 bucks on clearance, which I wish that I had bought them all, because the Ahsoka minifigure alone is like $300, and that moves into, you know, the other part of this set, which, you know, drives the value and drives like the fans' view on it, being the minifigures. That Rebel Ahsoka is super, super nice, one of the best Ahsokas that they have made, and probably one of, if not the best, Rebels minifigures that they have made. You also get the Commander Sato, which is a super sick minifigure, Agent Callus, Ezra. You get so many nice, insanely good minifigures in that set, in my opinion. I think it is one of the best. I think it's one of my favorites, but I did put it this low on the list because I think that there are better sets up there, just in the retrospective of it all. But overall, I think it's a very solid set, and I'm a big fan of it. In the number 4 spot, we have the Imperial Troop Transport, another one of these sets that I did actually own, and there's not much for me to say about this set. I think it is almost perfect. Well, not even almost perfect. I think it's perfect. It's a great battle pack coming with your 4 stormtroopers in that Rebel style, which, you know, at first I wasn't a big fan of, but I did eventually warm up to it, and now I think that it's a pretty nice stormtrooper. I think the build is really nice overall. You know, have the nice little driving area, and then you have the actual transport side of it, which was really cool. I like how that goes, and it is very accurate to what we saw in the actual show. I think the build is very nice. It's one of my favorite of the battle pack builds, and the minifigures are great. I don't really have much else to say about it. I guess one thing to note is the fact that they had the little stud shooter blasters instead of normal blasters, you know, when LEGO was on their dark era, giving those to all of their minifigures. But overall, I think it was a really nice set, and I'm a big fan of it. It's one of my favorite battle packs of all time. And in the number 3 spot, we have the Phantom, the other Phantom, the nicer Phantom, in my opinion. As you can probably tell, that it is a lot higher on the list than the other one. Now, overall, I think the build of this set, it's pretty nice. It's pretty sleek. It has some okay stickers, I guess. I think it is definitely way better detailed than the other Phantom, and overall I really do like the silhouette of this build, and I also like that there is that playability in the back with the interior where you can fit the crate, and, you know, the main draw of this set being the minifigures. It is the set that introduced us to Grand Admiral Thrawn in LEGO form. A super great minifigure, was worth a ton up until the new one came out, which, you know, I think there's still a big drive behind that Grand Admiral Thrawn, the OG version, which is super nice. It's a super nice minifigure in my opinion. which it was great to finally get them. There's also the Blind Kanan, also only ever appeared in that set. A super nice minifigure, a very underrated minifigure in my opinion. I think that one was also very well done. And then also the Chopper. I think I don't really have any complaints about this set. I think it's pretty much a perfect set in my opinion. Some amazing minifigures and also a pretty solid build, which is why it made its way into the top 3. And in the number 2 spot, I have the Vader's TIE Advanced versus the A-Wing Starfighter. I think this set is pretty sick. I think it's a really nice build. I will say, the reason that it's not number 1 is it was overpriced. I haven't really been taking price into account for any of these just because, you know, they've all retired by now, so they're all already, you know, stupid amounts of money on the aftermarket. But this set, I believe, was $110, which is pretty diabolical. I don't know why I just said diabolical, but I don't know. The price was pretty outrageous. It was $110 for the TIE Advanced and the A-Wing, but I will say I think the builds were very, very cool. I think the A-Wing was pretty much perfect. I think the Vader's TIE Advanced was perfect, and I think the minifigures were pretty sick. That was the only time that we got that version of Vader, as well as the Grand Admiral Tarkin. Also very really nice minifigures in that set. Overall, very great. Could have maybe taken the number 1. It's just the number 1 set is a special place in my heart because it is a very cool set. But now we'll move on to the number 1 set. And my completely biased option for number 1 is Captain Rex's ATTE. This is the one of the sets that I really wanted while it was on shelves, but was never really able to get. I think it is a super cool set. Maybe it doesn't necessarily belong in the number 1, but it's my list, so I've put it up there. I think it's just a very creative set. It takes the ATTE and it builds onto it, just showing, and I think it's very accurate to what appeared in the show. In the show, you know, that was one of my favorite kind of arcs episodes, the clones coming back with Gregor, Wolf, and Captain Rex, which are all great minifigures as well. Super sick, all exclusives to that set, as well as the exclusive Fourth Brother. All insanely really nice minifigures in my opinion, all really good. You know, it would have been nice to get the helmets. I think this set would have been perfect if you got the clone helmets as well. Unfortunately, we did not, but I think that would have made this one of the best Star Wars sets ever in my opinion. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but overall, I think it's a super nice set. I think the build is super creative. There's so much stuff going on, so many playability features. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I think it's really great. You can tell how biased I am, but I don't really care. I think it's a super nice set. I think the minifigures are great, and I don't really have much else to say about it. In my opinion, it is the best Star Wars Rebels set. And there you have my list ranking all of the Star Wars Rebels sets. Let me know what your lists would be down below in the comments. And also let me know down below if there are any other things that you'd like me to rank, whether it be, you know, the themes, you know, a type of set, anything like that, the sub themes. Let me know and I'll do it because this was a lot of fun to make and go through and look at all of the sets. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe. Drew signing out.